welcome to 2020 Bolingbrook. I am Barbara Parker, and we have a great show in store for you today. We're going to be hearing from our state senator, Rachel Ventura. So sit back. You're going to enjoy this one. She's got a lot of great information for you. Hello, everybody. I'm Barbara Parker, and with me today is Rachel Ventura, our state senator representing the 43rd District. Rachel, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Now, I want to know, after coming off a hard-fought primary, which you killed your opponent, you ran away in the general election, now you're going down to Springfield for your first time. What were you feeling? What was going through your mind as you're riding down there to get to work?
So before I even got there, the policy team had contacted us about putting in some legislation so that the policy team and the lawyers can write it up. I had a couple weeks before session started to put in my ideas, and we filed 45 bills. So a lot of my thoughts were on all of the legislation and what I needed to do to get it passed.
Now, out of those 45 bills that you had, you did get some passed and the governor signed, right?
Yes. So we ended up having 9 bills pass both the House and the Senate. I did have a few more bills pass the Senate that we'll have to continue to work on, as well as some other bills that need some amendments. And then we had one bill, part of an omnibus package, which is a package of several bills. And this was an energy bill that we had gotten through. And many of those have already been signed by the governor. I think we have a few more we're waiting on in the next few days and weeks that we'll sign.
Now, veto session will be coming up, and you have a bill that's very near and dear to your heart that's going to be there. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Senate Bill 1769 was passed through the Senate, went to the House. It came back to the Senate after it had been amended in the House, so that's called concurrence. So it's sitting in the Senate now on concurrence, waiting for us to concur with that, which we will do in veto session. The bill itself is to start moving Illinois to zero emissions vehicles. So what it does is it actually says that after 2030, if the state procures more or new passenger vehicles, they need to be zero emissions. And this will help create some of the demand, but mostly make sure the electric vehicle infrastructure is in place for charging and other needs that we have so that we can start moving to a zero emissions in our state.
That will also bring some nice high-paying jobs to the community, right?
That's right. So one of the big incentives that we put out was in 2021, we passed the REV Act, Reimagining Electric Vehicles, and Governor Pritzker has pushed hard to bring manufacturing to our state, both with electric vehicles and battery, and that provides some of the incentives. So we need to start creating the demand so that as these jobs come here, these manufacturing jobs, that it's Illinoisans who get those jobs as opposed to another state.
Now, another thing that you did for our district is you secured a lot of funding for various projects in our community. You want to talk about that nice big dollars that we're getting?
Yeah, that was a really exciting thing for a freshman senator to try to carve out dollars for our district. So I was able to get $3.25 million. $2 million of that is in infrastructure, and some of those infrastructure dollars are coming right here to our region, the northern part of the district. So $175,000 will be going to Woodridge to replace sidewalks, including some of the area that was hit when the tornado came through 2 years ago. There'll be $250,000 coming to the city of Bolingbrook to help with their city retaining wall and fountain area, and then $240,000 is coming to DuPage Township to help with the food pantry, mostly the parking lots around the area there, and then another $90,000 coming to Romeoville, both for charging stations and for fire extinguishers, specifically for electric vehicle batteries.
Well, you've certainly been busy and doing good for the people back here, so we're very grateful for that. But if you had to pick one bill or one memory that you did, which would you find to be the most rewarding to you?
Yeah, I think the most rewarding was the hydropower bill. I got to work with a lot of different entities, including the Environmental Council, labor, some of the utility companies. And what this does is it carves out incentives for us to build hydropower using existing dams in Illinois so it doesn't impact the environment in a negative way, but creates a base load capacity for energy. What does that mean? When the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing, blowing, we have the ability to create renewable and sustainable energy using hydropower. So this is really exciting, not just for our state, which would bring in more jobs and lower the cost of energy, but it also shows the rest of the country how we can move to a completely renewable and sustainable energy package with wind, solar, and water.
Well, that is really good news. Now that you're home, I'm sure you're just like eating bonbons and sitting on the couch watching TV shows and everything. Is that true, Rachel?
No, there's this myth that as part-time legislators, we somehow do this part-time. But the truth of it is I'm a full-time legislator. Both when I'm in Springfield, I'm working early morning all the way till late at night, working mostly on legislation. And then in the summertime, we're going to a lot of events. We're handling constituent services. We're getting the word out about the bills we passed, the monies that we procured. We're working with nonprofits and local governments to make sure those dollars are realized. There might be grant opportunities. We work with different entities to make sure they get the grant dollars. It's very busy. So every day I still have meetings in and out of the office. I am still trying to work on some legislation. We'll be filing again during veto session or during January session. And we stay quite busy. On top of that, we did bring on 4 interns this summer. So that's been a lot of fun teaching them and going to events with them. We also worked with the Lieutenant Governor, has a program, a shadowing program. So young kids from junior high all the way up to college can shadow lawmakers and learn how to write laws, how to go to events. And so we had Sophia Reyes was the person that shadowed me, and she's finishing up her next 2 sessions this week. And so it's been really exciting working with young people this summer.
Well, you said you had 4 interns. I got to meet 2 of them, and they were both fabulous. 1 female, 1 male, and both on the ball. Oh my God, it was a pleasure chatting with them. It's nice to see young people so involved and wanting to do good for the community. I really enjoyed my chats with them.
Yeah, we had a lot of people apply, and our initial plan was to bring on 3, but the applicants, all of them, were so impressive that we really had a hard time even just choosing the 3. So we decided to go ahead and expand to 4 interns, and it's been a pleasure getting to know them and see their point of view, especially when it comes to politics, because we have some kids in high school and some in college, and their view of how our government can really help people. It is exciting to see that they'll think outside the box. They think about things that are not ingrained in us. And one of the exciting things I did recently was attend the Line Electric ribbon cutting. And they talked about how kids riding electric school buses to and from school and having zero emissions, how their thoughts of what the world would look like will be vastly different than yours and mine. And I thought about that. I said, yeah, it's interesting how biased we are as adults because of how things have shaped us. And so it's been really nice being able to work with kids who have out-of-the-box thinking.
Well, one of the other things that you've done, you've come back to the community and actually talk to people and listen to them. Now, I was at an event where you talked about how you were more of a bull in a china shop when you were on the county board, and how you've learned now to meet people partway, or at least listen to them, to hear their side. How has that helped you down in Springfield now?
Yeah, I think that with any bill, there's unintended consequences. And you want to limit those unintended consequences. But if you look through your lens and your perception only, you'll probably miss some of those unintended consequences. So being able to work with different agencies, different nonprofits, different individuals having a different view of bills has really helped me identify what that looks like. When I was on the county board, I felt very much like an excited puppy, like running up, here are all of my ideas, and I kept feeling like I got swatted away a little bit, like, that's great, puppy, now go away. And so it became a little more forceful to try and get your ideas out there. And so, yeah, a bull in a china shop, sometimes pushing those ideas could upset people and burn bridges. So this time, I went in with a thought that, how about we ask why people don't like this bill up front, right? And find what are some compromises, what are the unintended consequences that we want to smooth out before this bill moves forward. So several of my bills had a lot of amendments. And the way I look at that is it's not that, it wasn't perfect when we filed it. It was more that we were able to listen to what people were saying and make the appropriate changes. And some of those changes came from across the aisle, and I was even praised for working with the other side of the aisle to make sure that we were able to get a good bill across that didn't feel like something was, being forced on someone's throat, or that, we were breaking to China, but in fact that we were being very strategic and working through some of the hurdles to make sure at the end of the day we had a really good bill for Illinois.
Now, what are your plans for the next session that starts? Do you have some things from chatting with people over the past couple of months now that you're back home that you want to institute, aside from the veto session, going into January now?
So the exciting thing about being a legislator who can get bills passed is that everybody knows that now, and they bring you more bills. So yes, there's still several of the bills that I already filed this last January that we want to fix up, we want to build some support for, that we're really excited about. One of them is descheduling and legalizing psilocybin for medical use, and working with a psychiatrist in a medical setting to try and impact things like PTSD or depression and anxiety that hasn't been treated by more traditional manners. And there's some other states who are moving into the sphere. So that's been, interesting to find how many different people have been impacted by mental health. And, it's not across just party aisles, or it's not across different ages or sex. I mean, it really impacts people as a whole. And so working with unusual entities has been really great. There's definitely a lot more environmental and infrastructure bills that we plan to file. I've got a really exciting one for geothermal that we're working both with environmental and labor to try and get this bill passed, as well as many others. There's been a lot of ideas that have come from local officials for township government, city, county, fixing some of the state legislation on certain things. So even working with our local government has been, eye-opening on things that maybe I wasn't initially aware of. So there's individuals who come and give us ideas on my website at senatorventura.com. You can submit a legislative bill idea, and we'll be in touch with you if we move the bill forward. And then I'm also, I thought we'd do it earlier this summer, put together some advisory committees, but it looks like it's going to be a fall project because of all the events we've been going to. So we'll be working in the fall to fix up some of our legislation by getting feedback from stakeholders in the community to make sure that we are indeed passing bills that impact us in a positive manner.
Well, that's great. Listening to you chat now, I forgot to ask you. You did a thing on digitizing records that would help people that are incarcerated. Do you want to explain that a little more?
Yeah, so it's really sad that in the 21st century we still use paper as much as we do. When an individual has served their time, they can't be released from the Department of Corrections until that entire paper file is there. And if they've been in multiple institutions, sometimes things get lost, and that can delay someone's time being released. Equally, if they have been in a holding cell at a jail, and then the judge gives them time served, they at this point still have to be transferred to a Department of Corrections and wait for their paper file to show up before they can be released. And that can delay a whole lot of things. And what ends up happening is taxpayers pay for those extra days, and individuals are serving more time than they should. We want to get people back into the community, make sure they have the resources they need so that they aren't unnecessarily being held. Equally, having all your medical records on file, so if somebody needs access to medical care, that we want to make sure they have the right treatment, that the state isn't liable for any medical malpractice. So it's really important that we move into this sphere. And actually today I just spoke with the new director of DOC, and they were excited to move forward with this. So yeah, it is a process. They'll do a study first to find out what the cost is, to try and get that cost to be as low as possible. And then we have a triage of how we will move the records over to be digitized. But the idea is in 7 years, everything will be digital moving forward, and we won't have those problems anymore. Saving taxpayers' dollars.
It's great. And not only that, the individual, it's hard enough serving time, especially if it's a first-time offender and they're away from their family and everything. And then to have that frustration of having to stay longer when they could be out being a productive member of the society.
That's right. And a lot of the legislation that I'm continuing to work on really is about rehabilitating individuals as opposed to just punishment. I think for a long time people have looked at corrections as punishment, but there's a real opportunity to make sure that people are leaving that time served really with a different mindset, right? And the ability to be a productive member of society, whether it's working a job, having a support structure, getting the mental health care that they need, learning coping skills or anger management. We want to try and make sure that people coming out of there really do have the best opportunity to not end up back in jail or prison, but to really go on with their life in a positive manner. So there's been programs that we've worked with. Stateville right now has restorative justice, which has been really exciting and promising. We have education where people can get different degrees coming out of a correction facility. There's definitely mental health care there, different peace circles, and we're putting a different face on corrections so that this, like I said, isn't just about punishment, but really giving people the best possibility to change their outcome in their life.
The one thing I think that needs to really get changed for people coming out is their ability to actually get a job. Once they have that felony record, so many of them face so many hurdles.
Yeah, so one of the bills that we were able to pass this time was providing a driver's license or state ID when they leave the correction facility, because you can't even apply for a housing unit or a job if you don't have some type of ID or driver's license. So that was the first hurdle that we've been able to work with the Secretary of State to make sure that they have that. But then, I also filed a bill that allowed housing where they can't be discriminated against just because of their record. We've got a lot more work to do on that bill. Obviously, there are concerns. We want our communities to be safe, but we also want to recognize that if someone has served their time, that we have to make sure that they have the ability to get a job and get housing. I was just talking today with the director and her team about what does employment look like? How can we remove some of those barricades so that somebody can get really good employment? And earlier today, I also spoke with ASME about trying to bring in the building trades to do apprenticeship programs. The state of Michigan just passed legislation like this. And so we know that we've got a labor shortage and you've got individuals coming out. If they're highly trained, then they can get into that workplace. And it's a benefit to both the employee and the employer. And this is the type of corrections that we want to see, as opposed to just being punishment, not having opportunities when you get out and finding yourself right back in the system. We want to change that.
Well, Rachel, you have been really busy this year. If you could say one thing now to everybody in the 43rd District, what would that be?
I want to say thank you for getting me here, and I would just continue to ask for your ongoing support. If you have ideas, feel free to contact my office, senatorventura.com. You can find me on all the social media platforms under Senator Ventura. Feel free to stay engaged. I can only represent you if I know what your issues are, and we want to make sure we're doing a good job because it's important that you believe that your tax dollars are working for you.
Well, everyone, as you can see, our state senator has been very busy representing us, and as she has indicated, she is available to chat with you, reply to an email. If she can't get back to you the same day, she will get back to you shortly, so don't hesitate to reach out. She's a fabulous state senator, and she's a wonderful human being once you get to know her.
Thank you.
Bye, Bolingbrook. We'll see you later.